Welcome back, everybody. Today we're diving into a story that really gripped New York City
Oh, yeah.
back in the early 90s,
Yeah.
at a time when the city was dealing with so much crime,
Yeah.
like way more than we see
It
today.
was a very different New York back then.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Imagine a city with like a homicide rate 7 times higher
Wow.
than it is now.
That's
It
incredible.
was just crazy.
Yeah.
And then into this already tense environment steps a figure who seems like,
Right.
ripped from the pages of a true crime novel,
Yeah.
the New York Zodiac.
Oh, man, that case really captures those anxieties of that era,
Yeah.
when people were already kind of looking over their shoulder, wondering if they were safe.
Right.
And then you have this mysterious figure invoking the
Oh, yeah.
specter of the Zodiac killer,
Oh, yeah.
one of the most infamous unsolved cases in American history.
Yeah,
It just played on people's deepest fears.
absolutely. It felt like something dark and sinister was creeping into the city.
Yeah.
And it all began with a seemingly ordinary crime.
Right.
On May 31st, 1990,
Okay.
a 79-year-old World War II veteran,
Mm-hmm.
Joseph Proci, was shot in the back
Oh, wow.
on the steps of his apartment building in Queens.
On his own steps. That's scary.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So at first, it just seemed like a random act of violence,
Yeah, I could see that.
like maybe a robbery gone wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But then investigators found something that changed everything.
What was that?
A note
A note.
left at the scene.
Okay.
But this wasn't just any note.
Right.
It had these strange symbols,
Okay.
like something you'd see in an astrology book, Scorpio, Gemini, Taurus,
Wow.
and a chilling sentence. This is the Zodiac.
Hmm.
The 12th sign will die when the belts in the heaven are seen.
Oh, that sends chills down my spine just hearing that.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Language, the symbols.
Yeah.
It's like a direct echo of the Zodiac killer
Oh, wow.
who had terrorized California decades earlier.
Right.
And the fact that the shooter used a homemade zip gun,
Oh, wow.
requiring close contact with the victim,
Yeah.
added another layer of like premeditation to the crime.
Right.
It was really unsettling.
Yeah, for sure.
So was this a copycat?
Right.
Someone trying to recreate the horror of the Zodiac killer?
Yeah. Were they trying to be like the Zodiac killer?
I mean, that was the question on everyone's mind.
Yeah, I bet.
I mean, the parallels were hard to ignore.
Right.
You have the astrological symbols,
Yeah.
the vulnerable elderly victim,
Uh-huh.
the cryptic message.
Yeah.
It all pointed towards this deliberate attempt
Right.
to emulate the Zodiac killer's MO.
It really does sound like a copycat.
Yeah. And then just weeks later, the story takes an even more bizarre turn.
Oh, really?
More notes appeared.
Okay.
This time sent directly to major news outlets
Wow.
like the New York Post
Mm-hmm.
and even 60 Minutes.
60 Minutes. Wow, they're going big.
I know.
Yeah.
It's like he was taunting the police,
Yep.
daring them to connect the dots.
Right. So these notes didn't just claim responsibility for the Proci shooting.
Right.
They linked it to 3 other seemingly unrelated shootings
Yeah,
that had occurred in Brooklyn.
exactly.
Wow.
So the police started looking into the backgrounds.
Okay.
The victims mentioned in the notes.
Mm-hmm.
Mario Orozco,
Okay.
shot in the back. Jermaine Montenestro,
Yeah.
another victim.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Joseph Proci.
Right.
And what they discovered was chilling.
Oh, no. What'd they find?
The victims' birth dates
Okay.
corresponded to the astrological signs mentioned in the original note.
Oh, my gosh.
Scorpio, Gemini, Taurus.
Wow.
It's almost too perfect to be a coincidence.
Right.
It was like the shooter was choosing victims based on their zodiac signs.
So this wasn't just a shooter.
Right.
It was a killer obsessed with the Zodiac.
Exactly. And with that realization, a new wave of fear gripped the city.
Yeah, you can imagine.
And this is where the investigation takes a turn into almost unbelievable territory.
What happened?
They brought in an
Oh,
astronomer.
an astronomer.
Yeah.
Okay.
And get this, an astrologer?
Oh, wow, an astrologer.
Yeah.
What were they thinking?
To analyze the dates of the shootings
Okay.
and see if they correlated with any celestial events.
It sounds like something out of a movie.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But the police were desperate for
Yeah.
any lead,
Sure.
anything that could help them understand the killer's motives
Okay.
and predict his next move.
Right.
And they discovered something interesting.
What was it?
The previous shootings
Yeah.
had occurred on dates when specific constellations
Oh, wow.
were visible in the night sky.
So they're looking for patterns in the stars, trying to decipher a cosmic code?
Yeah,
That's wild.
I know. And based on their analysis,
Yeah.
the astronomer predicted
Right.
that the next attack could happen
Yeah.
in the early hours of June 21st.
June 21st. Okay.
So imagine the pressure on the police.
Oh, yeah.
Knowing a potential date,
Right.
but not knowing where or who the next victim might be.
Right. It's a race against time. Yeah.
So what did they do with that information?
Yeah, like what did they do?
Did they warn the public?
I mean, that's a tough call, right?
I know.
Warn the public, and it could lead to widespread panic. But staying silent might cost lives.
Right.
It's a tough one.
So they ultimately decided to increase patrols
Okay.
in areas where the previous attacks had occurred, focusing on East New York.
East New York. Okay.
And June 21st arrived,
Okay.
the day of the predicted attack.
Right.
Did anything happen?
Yeah, what happened? Did anything happen?
Well, it seemed like the city had dodged a bullet.
Okay.
The sun rose,
Yeah.
and there were no reports of any shootings.
Phew.
But later that morning,
Oh, no.
a call came in
Oh.
that sent chills down the spines of investigators.
What happened?
There had been a shooting in Central Park.
No, Central Park. Central Park during the day. That seems to go against the pattern we've seen.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
It seemed like an anomaly.
Mm-hmm.
The victim was a homeless man
Okay.
named Larry Pum,
Larry Pum.
who had been shot in the torso while sleeping.
Oh, wow.
And what really sent a shiver
Right.
down everyone's spine was the discovery of another note
Another note. Okay.
left near the scene.
So I bet this one had more astrological symbols.
Well, not exactly.
Okay.
This note was different.
Oh, how so?
It contained a chilling declaration.
Uh-oh.
The shooter claimed to be the actual San Francisco Zodiac.
Hold on. So now he's not just a copycat. He's
Uh.
claiming to be the real deal.
Exactly.
Was he delusional?
Was this a tactic
Right?
to throw off investigators?
Yeah. Or was there something more to it?
I mean, it was a question that baffled everyone.
Yeah, I bet.
Was this a desperate attempt
Right.
to escalate the fear,
Mm-hmm.
to make himself seem even more powerful and
Yeah.
menacing?
Right.
Or was there something more to it?
Yeah.
And remember, unlike the previous victims,
Right.
Larry Pum survived the attack.
He survived. Okay.
Did he provide any clues?
Yeah. Did he see the shooter?
Well, when questioned,
Yeah.
Pum revealed something incredibly unsettling.
Okay.
He vaguely recalled a stranger approaching him
Okay.
a few weeks before the shooting
Mm.
and asking him his birthday.
Oh my gosh. That sends chills down my spine.
I know.
Yeah.
Was the shooter meticulously selecting his victims
Right.
based on their birth dates to fit this
Yeah.
Zodiac persona he had created?
That's a good question.
It was a detail that added a whole new layer of
Yeah.
complexity to the case.
Right.
So they still had no real leads
Yeah.
on who this New York Zodiac was,
Okay.
even though they had this potential pattern of birthdays
Hmm.
and Zodiac signs.
Right. Well, they did have a partial fingerprint
Right.
from the note left at the Central Park crime scene.
Yeah.
But remember, this is the early 90s.
Right.
Fingerprint technology
Yeah.
wasn't what it is today.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It was a really painstaking process
Yeah.
to try and match that print.
It must have felt like searching for a needle in a haystack.
Absolutely.
And then to make matters worse,
Oh.
Joseph Proci, that first victim,
Yeah.
died from his injuries.
Oh, no.
His death heightened the stakes,
Yeah.
turning what had been a series of attempted murders
Right.
into a full-blown homicide investigation. The pressure on the police
Right.
to find the New York Zodiac was immense.
Yeah, for sure.
The city was on edge,
Yeah.
and 4 years passed,
Wow, 4 years.
with no new leads.
Okay.
It seemed like the New York Zodiac had vanished.
Right.
But then, in August of 1994,
Okay.
a letter arrived at the New York Post,
Another letter.
and everything changed.
What happened?
This letter was unlike the previous ones.
Okay, how so?
It was longer, more detailed,
Okay.
and it revealed a disturbing escalation
Oh.
in the killer's actions.
What do you mean by escalation?
Had the attacks become more violent? That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Well, this letter claimed responsibility
Yeah.
for 5 additional attacks
5 more. Wow.
dating back to 1992,
Oh, okay.
and they were significantly more brutal.
Oh, gosh. So he hadn't stopped killing?
Right.
He had just gone quiet.
It seems that way.
Yeah.
One attack in particular stood out for its sheer brutality.
What?
A 39-year-old woman
Okay.
named Patricia Fonte
Trisha Fonte. Okay.
was found murdered
Oh, no.
in Highland Park,
Highland Park.
near the border of Brooklyn and Queens.
Okay.
She had been stabbed repeatedly,
Oh, my gosh. How many times?
over 100 times.
Wow. Over 100 times.
It seems like the Zodiac persona
Yeah.
was no longer enough.
Right.
He had crossed a line
Yeah.
into a new level of violence.
That's terrifying.
The brutality of the attack suggested a level of rage and anger that went beyond the calculated,
Right.
almost ritualistic nature of the
Yeah.
previous shootings.
It was a chilling development for sure.
And this letter mentioned 5 attacks.
Right. 5 attacks.
Was there anything else that stood out?
Yeah, was there anything else?
There was one detail that puzzled investigators. The letter mentioned a 5th victim,
Okay.
supposedly shot in Highland Park.
Highland Park, okay.
But police could find no record of such an attack.
Really?
There was no body, no missing person report, nothing.
Wow. So it's like this victim
Right?
had simply vanished.
It's incredibly eerie.
It really is.
Was the killer lying?
Right.
Or was there some kind of mistake?
Yeah, was it just a case
Right.
that slipped through the cracks?
It's a question that has never been definitively answered.
Wow.
Was it an attempt to inflate his body count?
Right.
A sign of a deteriorating mental state?
Uh-huh.
Or was there something more to it?
Yeah.
It seems like every new piece of information in this case just deepens the mystery.
It really does.
And meanwhile,
Yeah.
that partial fingerprint
Okay.
remained their only tangible lead.
Right.
So what happened next?
Yeah, what happened?
Did the fingerprint finally lead them
Yeah.
to the New York Zodiac?
I mean, that's a good question.
Well, actually, the break in the case
Oh, really?
came from a completely unexpected source.
Oh, wow. Okay, what was it?
A year later,
Okay.
in the summer of 1995,
Oh, 95. Okay.
Detective Joe Herbert,
Detective Joe Herbert.
who had been the lead investigator on the Zodiac case,
Mm-hmm.
was called to a hostage situation in East New York.
Oh, wow. So the detective who had been chasing this phantom killer
Exactly.
was now face to face with a different kind of criminal.
It was a strange twist of fate.
It really is.
A man named Herberto Seda
Herberto Seda. Okay.
had shot his sister
Oh, wow.
and was holding her boyfriend hostage.
Oh, my goodness.
After hours of negotiation,
Mm-hmm.
Seda surrendered
Okay.
and wrote a confession
A confession. Okay.
to the shooting.
Right.
But as Detective Herbert examined the confession,
Yeah.
something about the handwriting struck him as familiar.
Oh, he recognized the handwriting from the Zodiac letters.
It was a long shot,
Right.
but the possibility was too significant to ignore.
Right.
And at the bottom of the confession
Okay.
was a small symbol, a cross,
Okay. A cross.
that wasn't quite in a circle,
Okay.
but was reminiscent of the Zodiac's crosshairs.
Right. Right.
So he immediately shared the confession
Okay.
with a colleague
Mhm.
who had also worked on the Zodiac case,
Okay.
and his colleague confirmed it.
Yeah.
The handwriting was a match.
Oh my gosh. So a routine hostage situation
I know.
had led them right to the New York Zodiac?
It was a remarkable example of how sometimes
Right.
the smallest details,
Yeah.
the ones that might seem insignificant at first glance,
Right.
can be the key to solving a complex case.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that human intuition and experience
Absolutely.
can still play a vital role,
Right.
even in an age of increasingly sophisticated technology.
For sure.
They finally had their man, but I imagine this wasn't the end of the story.
Well, not at all. They were just beginning to unravel the mystery of
Yeah.
Herberto Seda
Yeah.
and what had driven him
Right.
to terrorize New York City.
So they had Seda in custody, and his handwriting matched the Zodiac letters. But was he really the New York Zodiac?
Well, to confirm their suspicions, they took Seda's fingerprints and compared them to the partial print from that Central Park note to match. They had their guy.
Wow.
They finally caught the New York Zodiac.
So they had their man. But as they delved deeper into Seda's life, the picture that emerged,
Right.
it wasn't one of a criminal mastermind,
Yeah.
but of a troubled individual,
Right.
driven by a strange mix of motives.
Yeah, it's fascinating, really.
But what kind of motives are we talking about?
Well, when they questioned him, Seda initially denied being the New York Zodiac. But when detectives showed him photos from Patricia Fonte's murder scene,
Right.
that horrific stabbing,
Yeah.
he confessed to all the shootings.
So it seems like that act of extreme violence was a turning point for him,
Yeah, it could have been.
like a moment where the mask finally slipped.
Yeah, perhaps.
And during a search of CS's apartment,
Mm-hmm.
they found a stash of 13 homemade zip guns.
13.
Wow.
That's a lot.
It's chilling.
Yeah,
It seems like he was committed to this Zodiac persona.
absolutely. And here's where it gets even more disturbing.
Okay.
He had actually sent his first taunting letter to the police back in 1989,
Before any of the shootings.
before any of the shootings had taken place.
So he was planning this all along. He was obsessed with the idea of becoming a notorious figure,
Right.
like the Zodiac killer.
It seems that way.
It's a reminder of the dark side of human nature,
Yeah.
how the pursuit of notoriety
Right.
can drive individuals to commit terrible acts.
Absolutely.
But what drove him to the Zodiac specifically?
Yeah, what was the connection?
Why the Zodiac?
Right.
The answer is almost too unbelievable.
Really?
He had seen a documentary on PBS about the Zodiac killer,
A documentary.
and it had sparked a chilling thought in his mind.
Oh, wow. So this documentary.
He reportedly said, "Holy smokes, this guy terrorized a whole city and never got caught? I got nothing to live for. I don't got no job. I already got those skills. I could be famous. I could do that."
And it's like he saw the Zodiac as a blueprint
Right.
for achieving a twisted kind of fame.
Exactly.
It raises a lot of questions
It does.
about the role of media in these cases.
Yeah.
Does the attention given to notorious criminals, even if intended to inform the public,
Yeah.
inadvertently inspire copycats?
Right.
It's a debate that continues to this day.
And what about that question of whether he was actually targeting victims based on their astrological signs?
Right. Did he really ask them for their birthdays?
Yeah.
That's another fascinating twist in the story.
It is.
When investigators dug deeper,
Yeah.
they discovered that Sita didn't actually know anything about astrology.
Oh, wow.
He had just used it as a way to construct this persona,
Really?
this Zodiac identity.
Right.
He was so desperately trying to embody.
So it was all just a facade,
Right.
a way to create an air of mystery and terror.
Precisely. He was a copycat who didn't even understand the thing he was copying.
It's almost absurd, but also incredibly disturbing.
Yeah.
In 1998, Sita went to trial.
Okay.
And throughout the proceedings, he behaved erratically,
Really?
yelling at the judge and seemingly trying to disrupt the process.
Wow.
Despite his attempts to derail the trial,
Right.
the evidence against him was overwhelming.
Yeah.
DNA from stamps on his letters,
Okay.
ballistics linking the bullets to his homemade guns,
Right.
and of course the fingerprints.
Yeah.
He was convicted of 3 murders,
Wow.
6 attempted murders,
Okay.
and sentenced to multiple life terms.
Wow. So the reign of the New York Zodiac was finally over.
But even with Sita behind bars, some questions lingered.
What kind of questions?
Well, one of the biggest questions that remains
Yeah.
is whether any of his victims actually remembered him asking for their birthdays.
Oh, right.
None of the surviving victims could recall such an interaction.
So we may never know for sure
Yeah.
if the astrological connection was deliberate or just a chilling series of coincidences.
The New York Zodiac case is a reminder of how the human mind can find patterns even where they don't exist,
Yeah.
especially in the face of fear and uncertainty.
Absolutely.
It highlights the dark side of the human psyche,
Yeah.
the allure of notoriety, and the enduring power of unsolved crimes,
Right.
like the original Zodiac killer.
It really does make you think.
It also raises important questions about the role of media
Yeah,
and the potential for copycat crimes.
for sure.
It's a story that leaves us with more questions than answers.
It really does.
But it's a story that's worth revisiting as we grapple with the complexities of criminal behavior
Yeah,
and the factors that contribute to violence.
absolutely. It was a fascinating case to dive into.
It was. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive
Oh, it was my pleasure.
into the strange and disturbing case of the New York Zodiac.
It was really interesting.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to the deep dive for more explorations of true crime
Yeah, definitely subscribe.
and the dark side of human nature.
We'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time.